Welcome to a new edition of Freedom's Voice. I am Chris Hager. Freedom's Voice is a Bible based contemporary issues podcast. And I hope to bring with it not only an idea or two historically, because I'm old, but I also have a biblical worldview. And it's very simple. How you see the Bible is called a hermeneutic, and mine is that the Bible is literal, it is grammatical, and it is historical. And everything I see in and around, I put against that standard. And it, boy, makes life a lot easier at times. So, anyway, the current events this is November 24th. We're 3 days from Thanksgiving. I am thankful for so many things, but I'm also thankful for the opportunity to explain some things. So, let's talk. This is first and foremost about Democrats and the continuous storyline that says, are they going to have a problem? Do they have policies? Why are they just in Trump derangement syndrome mode? And on and on. And then the meeting last Friday between President Trump and Mamdani, and oh my, how did that go? Blah, blah, blah. So let me give you a little bit of history to look at. There was two major bills that the Democrats try to forget: the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act, 64 and 65. The Democratic Party did not vote for both of those in unison. Large numbers of the Democratic caucus voted no on both the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act. Why is that? Because the Democratic Party was Southern for many years, very racist for many years, and people don't understand that both of those bills were pretty much crafted and written by Dwight Eisenhower, a Republican. So when Lyndon Johnson said, "Oh my, we've got problems," remember John Fitzgerald Kennedy was elected in 1960. Oh, and guess what? They stole the election. Really? Yeah, you should look it up sometime. Texas, Illinois stole the election for John Kennedy because they wanted a Democrat against Richard Nixon. Took a long time for him to finally admit that, but that was one of the earliest stolen elections. If you think 2020 didn't happen, you haven't paid attention and don't know history. I love the fact that everybody says, oh, election denier. No, anyone with a right, honest mind realizes that Joe Biden did not get 84 million votes. Well, no, sorry. He did receive 85 million ballots, not 85 million registered citizens voted for him. Big difference. I'm sure there were 80 something million. I said 85 million, whatever the number was, 82 million. He did not receive more votes from citizens registered to vote in the United States than Barack Obama did. He did get that many ballots counted. That is where the fraud lies. Anyway, going back, Democrats in large numbers voted no on both the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act. Republicans made those bills possible. They carried them to being passed, not the Democrats. Republicans have always been for voting rights and for absence of discrimination, not the Democrats. The Democrats are users and despisers of, well, the South was Democrats and racists. Don't think it is so much now, but it certainly was in the 60s and 70s. They are not innocent bystanders. Republicans from Abraham Lincoln on have fought against discrimination and for inclusion, not the Democrats. So anyway, let's go forward now. We've got the torn up Democratic Party. They can't stand Trump. And you've got Democratic Socialists. What is a Democratic Socialist and why is he different than a Democrat? They aren't different. They want one and only one thing. They want government to be in charge of your life. How does that work? Poorly. Why? Because government employees, some being nice, some being decent, some being good neighbors, but the government of every country, everywhere, always runs horribly. Governments don't do things well, with a couple of exceptions. What did Benjamin Franklin start when he wanted to have a government? Post office. They didn't run it particularly well, but it's the only authority that can go state to state and do so safely and with protection and those things. So the post office is a good example to have a national service, particularly back in those days when it was horses and carriages and slow things. Now, the post office is pretty bloated. They do a good job, Daily Mail, all of that, but it takes great subsidies. It's very expensive. And for packages, obviously, people like Amazon, UPS, FedEx, all of those are much more efficient than any government unit can be. But the best is military. With this proviso, Rush Limbaugh had it best. The purpose of the Army is to kill people and break things. That's what they should do. That's what they should be excellent at. And our military is exactly that. They are excellent when they are allowed to kill people and break things. My son, U.S. Army Ranger, spent 2.5 years as a Ranger instructor. What they learn how to do, what they train to do, what they live to do is be ready. And when called upon, our military serves with pride, distinction, and effectiveness to kill people and break things. The better they are and the more widely that is known, the less likely it will ever have to be used. One of the big failings of the Democratic Party has always been, well, I won't say always, but for most always, I give FDR a bit of a break on that. To be a viable deterrent, the enemy must believe that you will use the deterrent. If they don't believe it, then it doesn't work. Clearly, Russia didn't believe that Obama was able or capable to use it. Biden was useless. They do little things. Clinton was terrible. He bombed an aspirin factory. He was not willing to take out bin Laden. Trump proved that he was very willing to use our military correctly, and so didn't have to much. He took out Soleimani. Who was Soleimani? Qasem Soleimani, the commander, general, colonel, whatever his rank was, of the Iranian forces. My son, Army Ranger, in Iraq, was killed by an Iranian bomb, probably at the behest of Soleimani, Qasem Soleimani. I applauded when I found out that Soleimani had been killed. Matter of fact, I got a chance to spend a few minutes with then Vice President Pence. We shook hands. He held my hand. We talked for 15 minutes, never let go of each other's hands. I so appreciated. He was so sincere. He knew what it meant to families like mine that someone paid the price for my son's death. Well, again, let's look at Democrats and their desire for government. They want to grow government always. And they're never willing to make government accountable, because when you get a government program that doesn't work or is rife with fraud, you have to terminate it. They will never do that. I love the line, socialism works until you run out of other people's money. We're already out of money. You can't spend your way to prosperity. It doesn't happen. Here's one of my key points to think about. And I say this in all sincerity. Government cannot invest in anything. No government can invest. Why? Because investment requires production. If you produce a good or service and you have an abundance of goods or service and you can save from what you do without your own consumption. In other words, if you're a farmer, you grow more food than your family needs to eat, you can sell the food, you have a leftover, a profit, if you will, that becomes an investment in more planting. You can have a bigger harvest the next year. Government only confiscates money. They don't produce anything. If a government employee, if a government uh, elected official, anyone in government says, we're going to make an investment in ABC, we need to invest in our schools. No, there's no such thing as a government investment. They can spend money. If they spend money, occasionally there is a beneficial result. Only occasionally, never in perpetuity. No government program can be always beneficial. They get turned into fraud. They get turned into someone's piggy bank. They cannot invest and reap a reward. They occasionally can generate a beneficial result, but only occasionally.